ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरि वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So we will continue the description of the discussion between the Maitreya and Vidura. And so this was, as we had discussed, towards the end of second canto. It was after the description of the universal creation and things like that. The topic was switched, and the question was asked about like a description about the discussions between Maitreya and Vidura. And here, then Suta Goswami cited the version of Shukadeva Goswami, wherein Parikshit Maharaj also asked a similar question. And then now there is description of how and what events led the Parikshit Maharaj to renounce the kingdom and then go to the forest, and how he happened to meet with Maitreya Muni. So that background setting is actually going on now. So let's start with the 13th sloka. सयेष दोषः पुरुषद्विदास्ते ग्रहान् प्रविष्टोऽयम् अपत्यमात्या पुष्णासि कृष्णात् विमुखो गतश्रीस् त्यजास्व त्यदा त्यजास्व अशैवम् अशैवं कुलकौशलाय. Okay. You are maintaining offense personified Duryodhana as your infallible son, but he is envious of Lord Krishna. And because you are thus maintaining a non-devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all auspicious qualities. Relieve yourself of this ill fortune as soon as possible and do good to the whole family. So this is Vidura is advising Dhritarashtra. So as we were seeing yesterday, so here no, Vidura is very very open. He is telling that no, you are maintaining offense personified. That is Duryodhana. In fact, if you see, yeah, so like he's maintaining offense personified, and he is not devotee of Krishna, and you're agreeing to his proposals and things like that. So you are going to bring about all inauspiciousness, right? So to the kingdom. So get rid of this son as quickly as possible. Don't listen to him. So that is what Vidura is actually advising to Dhritarashtra. Purport: a good son is called apatya, one who does not allow his father to fall down. No, patan means to fall down. Apatya means like apatan. No, means like negation of the this one. So apatya means one who will uplift the family, or one who will actually bring the family to a higher level of existence. So here apatya means like a good son. The son can protect the father's soul when the father is dead by offering sacrifice to please the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So this is no pindadan. No, generally like the sons offer the pindadan. So pindadan means it's actually a procedure to satisfy the Supreme Lord Vishnu and aiming the results of the sacrifice to the forefathers. So that helps in the forefathers' journey to their spiritual destinations. So, but then these days, no, people don't offer Vishnu Prasad. Some families they offer even meat. So that means even after the father and grandfather they have departed, still they are adding karma to them. No, even if they are progressing somewhere, they are pulling them down by doing such negative kind of worships. So this pindadan or the sacrifices that are performed by the children after the departure of the parents, it is helpful in their future journey in the spiritual path wherever they are. So this punya is offered to them actually. Okay, this system is still prevalent in India. After the death of his father, a son goes to offer sacrifice at the lotus feet of Vishnu at Gaya. No, there is Vishnupad, the temple is there in Gaya. Even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went there to offer this one oblations after his father passed away. Right? So, and thus delivers the father's soul if the father is fallen. But if the son is already an enemy of Vishnu, how in such an inimical mood can he offer sacrifice unto Lord Vishnu's lotus feet? Lord Krishna is directly the personality of Godhead Vishnu, and Duryodhana was inimical to him. He would therefore be unable to protect his father Dhritarashtra after his death. He himself was to fall down because of his faithlessness towards Vishnu. How then could he protect his father? Vidura advised Dhritarashtra to get rid of such an unworthy son as Duryodhana as soon as possible if he was at all anxious to see the good of his family. Now he was very, very clear. This son is going to, that means Duryodhana is going to just spoil the whole family. No, just get rid of him as quickly as possible. No, that's what he's telling. According to the moral instructions of Chanakya Pandit, what is the use of a son who's neither a learned man, uh, nor a devotee of the Lord? If a son is not a devotee of Supreme Lord, he is just like blind eyes, a source of trouble. A physician may sometimes advise the extrication of such useless eyes from their sockets so that one can be relieved of constant trouble. Duryodhana was exactly like blind, troubling eyes. He would be source of great trouble to the family of Dhritarashtra as foreseen by Vidura. Vidura therefore rightly advised his elder brother to get rid of this source of trouble. Dhritarashtra was wrongly maintaining such personified offense under the mistaken impression that Duryodhana was a good son able to liberate his father. So no, he was looking at that. He like, I was not able to rule, at least my sons will rule over this kingdom. No, that's his anticipation and things like that. So, but then here Vidura is telling, no, that's not your permanent happiness, and by maintaining this son, you will only be creating problem to the family. Right? Text 14. Iti uchivams tatra suyodhanena. Okay, here there is a very nice this one. This Duryodhan's actual name is called Suyodhan. Suyodhan means a good. No, it's a very good name that is given. So, but his activities were so bad that he's called as Duryodhan later on. So, iti uchivams tatra suyodhanena pravruddha kopa स्पृहृताधरेण असत्कृत सत्स्पृहणीयशीलः क्षत्तः सकर्णानुज शौबलेन. While speaking thus, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhan, who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. So Duryodhan also was there at that point in time. And when he heard that his uncle is telling that, no, get rid of this guy. So he got very, very angry and he started, speaking in insulting way. Duryodhan was in company with Karna, his younger brothers, and his maternal uncle Shakuni. Purport. It is said that giving good counsel to a foolish person causes the fool to become angry, just like feeding milk to a snake only increases its venomous poison. Saint Vidura was so honorable that his character was looked up to by all respectable persons. But Duryodhana was so foolish that he dared to insult Vidura. This was due to his bad association with Shakuni, his maternal uncle, as well as with his friend Karna, who always encouraged Duryodhana in the nefarious acts. No, this is also very important. No, people actually take Karna to be a very great personality, Danveer and things like that. Yeah, so there can be many good qualities. So, Karna is very, very good in, giving charity. Like this, people may have many, many good qualities, but it is mentioned, Bhagavatam says that Yashasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana Sarvair Gunes Tatra Samasate Suraha Haravabhaktasya Kuto Mahat Gunan Manoratena Asti Davato Bahihi. So there can be, like, for a devotee of the Lord, it is matter of time. All good qualities will manifest in him. But if Haravabhaktasya Kuto Mahat Gunan, so if somebody is not a devotee of the Supreme Lord, so then what good qualities are there in him? No, there is no good quality. Even though if we see some good quality, it is just a matter of time. It will all go off. No, it will all go off. So that is why, it is mentioned that, and also Karna's background is that he was a demon by name Sahasra Kavacha, and he was quite difficult to be defeated. He had 1,000 kavachas on his body, and then nobody could able to penetrate that. And if somebody can penetrate one of the kavachas, so then that person would die. So then the Lord in the incarnation as Naranarayana, so they were fighting with Karna, and no, because it's incarnation of Lord, so they will not die. So it takes 1,000 years of tapasya to, a person has to do, then he can break one of the kavacha of this Sahasra Kavacha demon. And so they were like these two, the Nara and Narayana, so the lords in these two forms. So they were doing tapasya in a place where the place had a glory of 1 day's tapasya will result, the 1,000 times. So 1,000 days tapasya will happen in 1 day. So one day Nara will be fighting and Narayana will be doing the tapasya in that place. And then the next day, the Narayana will fight and Nara will do tapasya. In this way, 999 kavachas were already broken. So at that time, that demon took shelter of sun god, and he was saved. And the same personality was born as Karna. So actually his background was he was a demon. So, but then here, we should not be enamored by the material good qualities that are there. Material good qualities, they don't have much value. So it is like, sometimes I used to ask people that, is charity good? So then they say, yeah, charity is very good. So then if I take money from your pocket and then do charity, is that good? Will you accept it? So then they say, no. If you want to do charity, you should do charity on, on your capacity. So that is how people here Karna is famous as Danveer, but whose charity, whose property he is giving in charity? So everything belongs to Krishna, and Krishna should be consulted even in the charity, in the matter of charity. He should be consulted. And if the way Krishna is pleased, if he is acting in that way, then that is called a very good thing. But then if he is thinking that I am a charitable person, I am a charitable person, that is actually a not very good thing. In fact, it is mentioned that 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the last sloka, Bhoktaram yajna tapasham sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam nyatva mam shanti muchati. So one who knows the Supreme Lord as these three, in these three ways, so shanti mruchati, it is, he attains complete peace. So what are the three ways? Bhoktaram. Bhokta means he's the enjoyer of everything. So now, if we work for a particular company, so then all the results that come, it belongs to the company, right? So when I filed a patent when I was working, so at the time the company took all the rewards that came for the patent, and then they just gave some little bit of recognition, some few thousands of rupees, they just gave, and all the benefit belongs to them. So somebody may say, I have used my intelligence to register a patent. Why is it the company is taking the credit? Because I am working for that company. All that work I do, the result belongs to the company. The intelligence of mine belongs to the company. So in the same way, everything that exists belongs to the Lord. So everything, anything and everything that we do, the result belongs to Krishna. If we do business, the result belongs to Krishna. If we have any asset or anything that we have, everything belongs to Krishna, because he is the enjoyer. He is the ultimate proprietor and he is the enjoyer, right? So Bhoktaram Eknatapasham Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. So he is the proprietor of everything that is there, and he is the enjoyer of everything that is there. If somebody says that, no, I have did this thing and the result belongs to me, he becomes an atheist. No, he is claiming the position of Krishna, saying, I am the enjoyer. He becomes immediately an atheist. And then Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, if somebody says, this is my property, no, this, I own this property, immediately he becomes an atheist. No, because everything belongs to Krishna. Everything is owned by him, right? So, and then third thing is very, interesting. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. Krishna is telling, I am the friend of all living entities. If somebody comes and says, no, I am friend of all living entities, I will take care of these people, I will care for them and things like that, he becomes an atheist. No, he becomes a demon actually. So that's how the this one is. So we should help people, saying that Krishna is your real protector, Krishna is your real master. So I am his servant. I will try to connect you to Krishna. Right. So that is the real mood in which we should actually render service to the people. So here we see these good qualities in the material world. They attract everyone. The Karna is like glorified like anything because of his charitable nature, and so many other demons like this what is it, Jarasandha. No, he is a Brahmana Bhakta. No, he used to give so much of charity to Brahmanas. He used to take care of Brahmanas so nicely, but then he would not like Krishna. So he's a demon. No, simple term like Vishnu Bhakta Bhaved Daiva Ashurim Tad Viparyaya. One who is devotee of Lord Krishna and one who accepts Krishna as all in all, and one who serves people, and in trying to connect them back to their original father Krishna, such a person is devotee, and all others are called as demons, right? So they may be very, very attractive in the eyes of the common people. No, Mandanam Lokaranjanam. No, Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastra Japas Tapas Apranasya Dehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam. So in this way, Karna, though he was very attractive in the eyes of the common people, but then no, he's a demon because he doesn't like Krishna. So text 15. Kayenam atro pajuhav jihmam dashya sutam yat balinaiva pushtaha tasmin pratipa prakritya aste nirvasyatam ashu puracha vasanaha. Who asked him to come here, the son of a kept mistress? That means like Dasiputra. No, he is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy against those who support. Those who support he has those on whose support he has grown up. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath. No, this is what Duryodhana actually mentioned. That no, he's kept mistress means like it's very, very low language that he's using actually. So he's telling that no, that it's not a duly married no queen from whom Vidura was born. No, it was like kind of some maid servant. No, somehow some connection happened, and then this Vidura was born. Something of that sort. It's like very, very derogatory word he's using, and then he's crooked. Why he is crooked? Because he is not loyal to us. He has eaten our salt. He is what is it? The king of the Hastinapur is maintaining him, but then he is going to other people, like, and then he's supporting them. He is taking all nourishment from us, and he's going and supporting somebody else. So he is like completely what is that? Crooked. No. So this is what Hiranyakashipu also accused of Prahlad. So Prahlad, he told that, you see, like you're what is that? You are worshipping Vishnu, and who is this Vishnu? Vishnu is the killer of your mama. No, your what is that? The father's brother, right? So Vishnu is the killer of your no this one uncle. and you are you are worshipping him. So what kind of a this one loyalty that you have towards our family, right? So that's what is asked. So we should understand, all of us as spirit souls, our first family is the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord is our first family, and the family that we have right now is second or third or fourth or whatever it is. Like, no, we can just put something else, but then this family will last only for this lifetime, but our relationship with Krishna will last for eternity. And still, at every lifetime, we have our immediate family taking over our full attention, and we just miss out Krishna. He is eagerly waiting for us in so many lifetimes, but we just miss out him. We never give attention to him. We never, focus on him as the, most dear and lovable personality, right? So here also the same thing is there. Duryodhana is, as demons would be, he is completely bodily conscious, and he is considering anybody who's favoring the family is the favorable person, and anybody who's not favoring the family is not the favorable person. He is not able to see the ultimate good. He is not able to see a bigger picture, right? So in this way, he's insulting Vidura, and he's telling that, no, just get him, get rid of him and leave him only his breath. That means, no, remove all his opulences, remove all his like wealth, everything, and then just, throw him on the street. That's what he's mentioning. Purport. When getting married, the Kshatriya kings would take on several other youthful girls along with the married princes. These girls, girl attendants of the king, were known as dasis or attendant mistresses. By intimate association with the king, the dasis would get sons. Such sons are called dasiputras. They had no claim on the royal position, but they would get maintenance and other facilities just like princes. Vidura was the son of such a dasi, and he was not counted amongst the Kshatriyas. King Dhritarashtra was very affectionate towards his younger dasi putra brother Vidura, and Vidura was a great friend and philosophical advisor to Dhritarashtra. Duryodhana knew very well that Vidura was a great soul and well-wisher, but unfortunately, he used strong words to hurt his innocent uncle. Duryodhana not only attacked Vidura's birth, but also called him an infidel because he seemed to support the cause of Yudhishthira. Infidel means uh, fidelity. It's an opposite of that. Uh, a person who does not believe in religion or who adheres to a religion other than one's own, or adhering to a religion other than one's own, it's basically like he doesn't have a loyalty. No, he's questioning the loyalty of Vidura, towards Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. So that's means he is Vidura's words were, no, though it may be harsh, it is for the well-being of, Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. But then, no, they are not able to understand the no good intention, or not just good intention is sufficient, but Vidura is a wise man. He knows things in truth, and he is a very, very knowledgeable and advanced devotee of Lord, and his words should be taken as such, right? But Duryodhana, not just insulting, not just neglecting to take the advice of Vidura, he's insulting, him very badly. So Duryodhana not only attacked Vidura's birth, but also called him an infidel because he seemed to support the cause of Yudhishthira, whom Duryodhana considered his enemy. He desired that Vidura be immediately put out of the palace and deprived of all his possessions. If possible, he would have liked him caned until he left with nothing but with his breath. No, caning means like, no, beating him with the cane, no, beating him with a stick, and it is very, very what is that kind of disgracing somebody, kind of like ripping off um, all their no respect and all that they have, no, ripping apart everything and then throw him in the street, something very, very derogatory actually. So he charged that Vidura was a spy of the Pandavas because he advised King Dhritarashtra in their favor. Such is the situation of palace life and the intricacies of diplomacy, that even a faultless person like Vidura could be charged with something abominable and punished. Vidura was struck with wonder at such unexpected behavior from his nephew Duryodhana, and before anything actually happened, he decided to leave the palace for good. Text 16. Swayam Dhanurvari Nidaya Mayam Bratu Puro Marmashu Taditopi Sayittam Atyul Bana Karnabaner Gatavyato Yad Uruman Manayanah. Thus, being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart, Vidura placed his bow on the door and quit his brother's palace. He was not sorry, for he considered the act of external energy to be supreme. So this is one of the amazing aspects of a devotee. No, Vidura, he could have been feeling sorry that I was trying to help my family members and they are not listening to me. No, he could have been sorry, but he is telling that this external energy of the Lord, through that all these things are happening. So that is the supreme will of the Lord. No, I tried my best. No, this is a very important thing. The devotees of the Lord always try to give the importance on the will of the Lord. No, that's a very, very important thing. So, and also another very important thing that we can see is they give emphasis on their personal role, what they are supposed to do. So they are not interested in the results that are going to come. I instructed, then people must take it. No, what is this? People must take it. That is a result. The moment I put myself attached to the result of any activity, it is miserable to the core. No, we should just be interested in doing our duty. No, it is my duty to tell somebody like what is good. It is not my duty to make them follow these things. No, it is my duty to just inform and tell and do my best to convey the good things. But then if people take it, it's to their credit. If they don't take it, it's not at all a problem. I have done my duty. No, that's a very important thing. I have to do my duty and expect the least. We should not. In fact, we should expect zero from anyone. So that is the way of that is the way the people actually the devotees of the Lord actually function. And the materialistic people in the material world, for them, it is completely the opposite. Whether I perform my duty or not, that's a different thing. Why did the other person not do? No, that is very important. No, why I did not get this, why I did not get that. Everywhere, there is why I am supposed to get all these things. No, why these people are not doing this, why that people are not doing this. Every time it is the problem of external. So, the whole purpose of our existence, we should not waste our life just thinking about why all these people are not doing anything. We should just think about how much I am not doing, how much I am not surrendered to Krishna, how much I am not thinking about Krishna. When I chant, is my mind just fixed on the holy name of the Lord, or am I able to be fully absorbed in the thoughts of the Lord? So why am I thinking about all the people in this world? There are so many problems everywhere, and there is so many problems inside. Let me just focus on clearing my problems. And in fact, that person who is very eager to settle his problems, very eager to clear his mind of all the anarthas, he can, by his purity, he can inspire other people. So most of the time we think, when I instruct, people will change. No, when I change from within, seeing that people will change. No, people are not going to listen to the words. People are going to see the change in me. That's what is going to affect people. So, in fact, a pure devotee of the Lord, he would not speak much, in that way. He would not go and keep advising people, you do this, you do that, and things like that. He would just simply work on himself, and then he would spend time on speaking Krishna Katha and things like that. So, in fact, Jesus Christ, he was telling that a preacher may preach all day, and he may speak also sometimes. That means speaking is not the way of preaching. Preaching means to show by personal example, show by purifying our own heart of all the anarthas, and in that way we can actually show a very right example to the people in general, right? So here we see that Vidura was not at all affected by the harsh words and then throwing him off the palace, speaking ill about him and throwing off the palace. So he's like completely okay with that. No, he's just walking off. Purport. A pure devotee of Lord is never perturbed by any by an awkward position created by the external energy of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 3:27, it is said, "Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate." A conditioned soul is absorbed in material existence under the influence of different modes of external energy. Absorbed in the false ego, he thinks that he is doing everything by himself. The external energy of the Lord, the material nature, is fully under the control of the Supreme Lord, and the conditioned soul is fully under the grip of external energy. Therefore, the conditioned soul is fully under the control of laws of Lord, law of the Lord. But due to illusion only, he thinks himself independent in his activities. Right? So this sloka is a very important thing. Prakrutehe kriyamanani. So that means everything is done by prakriti or material nature. Right? So three modes of nature. So it is more explicitly explained in the second line. Gunaihi. Gunaihi means like three guna. So sattva guna, raja guna, and tamo guna. So these three gunas are pushing and like doing things in this whole world. Right? So we desire, and these gunas are the ones who are acting in this whole world. Nothing else is acting in the whole world. So prakritehe kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasaha. So everything, all the karma, all the activities in this world is done by these three modes of nature. Right? So we are influenced by three modes of nature, and we are also going, like a obedient dog, which will wag its tail and then go behind its master. So in the same way, we are just going behind these three modes of nature. And whatever it says, of course, our sanction is required. But our sanction is almost like a dog, it will follow its master. Dog has its free will, it can go anywhere it wants, but then it will just simply follow the master. So in the same way, we have the free will not to go in the line of the three modes of nature, but we are so obedient dog of this material nature, we will just simply follow. If the material nature says, you see, this is the best thing to do, we'll say, okay, my lord, whatever you want, we'll do it. So that's how we are so much convinced or so much following the three modes of nature, even without our knowledge, right? So prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasaha ahankara vimudatman. And then by following the three modes of nature in this way, and three modes of nature is doing all the nefarious activities, and then we think, oh, I have done all these things. Ahankara vimudatman karta aham iti. No, karta aham. No, I am the doer. Karta aham iti manyate. No, he's thinking that, no, I am the doer of all these things. Right? So in this way, we can see that this is only because of the false identification, ahankara, or the false ego, or false identification of ourselves with the body that has been completely controlled by the three modes of nature. We identify that I am this body, and then the activities of the three modes of nature, we identify this is my activities. So that is the greatest problem of this world, right? So no, we cannot do anything. No, we can only desire, and the material nature performs, or we desire and the Supreme Lord performs. No, we don't have any capacity to perform anything. No, so we only have the capacity to desire. That's the important point here. And only out of illusion we think that we are doing the activities. So Duryodhana was acting under such influence of external nature. So you see the vision of Vidura. So Vidura is seeing Duryodhana is speaking these insulting words, and Vidura is telling, oh, here is a helpless soul. The material modes of nature is acting, and this guy, he doesn't have any control. He is just simply following the three modes of nature. There is no point in speaking with him. Just, get out of the place. So this is a very, very deep and what is that? Very deep consciousness. Very advanced devotee Vidura was. He could able to see the actions of the Lord. Even in the awkward situation, even in very, very trying situations, he's able to see the hand of the Lord everywhere. So he's just seeing that Duryodhana's harsh words. It's just the Lord is actually telling me that enough. You have done enough in this palace. No, you get out of this place, and he's happily accepting it. That's an amazing thing. How nice it would be like if we have such a this one that people may speak anything, people may do anything, and still we are happy all the time with him. That's an amazing treasure actually. So to be happy and peaceful is a great treasure. In fact, Krishna says that I become very attracted to that devotee who's always peaceful and happy within. So that is a sign of advanced devotional service. So if somebody is like deeply within, he's always peaceful and happy with everything that is around, and seeing the hand of the Lord in everything. So then it immediately becomes like a person becomes happy. So we complain that why this is going wrong, why that is going wrong, why this is that, why that is that. All this because of like we are not able to see the hands of the Lord, right? So only thing that the Vaishnava acharyas they get anxious about is that they only get anxious about the foolish living entities. Oh, these foolish living entities are struggling in this world and thinking that karta hamiti manyate. How can we do any good for them? That is the only reason why they chastise and why they actually become little strong and angry and things like that. But otherwise, no, for themselves what has happened is like, no, it's completely okay. No, I am completely okay with all these things that are happening. So that's the way Vidura is actually taking it over here, right? So we can see Duryodhana was acting under such influence of external nature by which he would be vanquished at the ultimate end. He could not accept the sound advice of Vidura, but on the contrary, he insulted that great soul who was the well-wisher of his whole family. Vidura could understand this because he was a pure devotee of the Lord. In spite of being very strongly insulted by Duryodhana's words, Vidura could see that Duryodhana, under the influence of Maya, the external energy, was making progress on the path towards his own ruination. He therefore considered the acts of external energy to be supreme, yet he also saw how the internal energy of the Lord helped him in that particular situation. A devotee is always in a renounced temperament because the worldly attractions can never satisfy him. Vidura was never attracted by the royal palace of his brother. He was always ready to leave the place and devote himself completely to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. No, this was the temperament of Vidura, and this just became a trigger to get out of the home. No, this just helped him to do that thing. That's all. So a devotee is always very eager. When will I go to the lotus feet of the Lord? When will I be engaged completely in the service of the Lord? No, when will I be that devotee who will always be doing that thing which is giving pleasure to the Supreme Lord? So a devotee is always very, very eager to do this thing. And if he gets a trigger, he just happily takes it, saying, okay, no, this is it. No, I'm going. So like that. Now he got the opportunity by the grace of Duryodhana. And here it's very nicely put, by the grace of Duryodhana, right? So, and instead of being sorry at the strong words of insult, he thanked them from within because it gave him the chance to live alone in the holy place and fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord. The word gata gataha, without being sorry, is significant here because Vidura was relieved from the tribulations which trouble every man entangled in material activities, right? So here, another thing also we need to know, we need to understand here. Here it's mentioned, he thanked him from within because it gave him the chance to live alone. So this is even a pure devotee of the Lord. He is able to thank even the people who are accusing him. No, that's an amazing quality actually. And then also live alone. Live alone means to live away from the materialistic people. That's called living alone. It's not that avoiding the association of devotees. So basically, if that is the case, he would not have met Maitreya Muni and took his association and things like that. So definitely Vidura met a lot of devotees and then he was having their company and things like that. So it is not living alone doesn't mean that no, he wanted to be completely ekanta. No, it's not like that. Okay, so he therefore thought that there was no need to defend his brother with his bow because his brother was meant for ruination. Thus, he left the palace. No, this is like he didn't defend and try to attack him with the bow and arrow and things like that because already he is dead. Already this Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, they are dead. Why? Because they have already started to walk on the path of hell. So what more punishment we can give? There is nothing that we can actually do. So he just left saying that, no, mm, like God bless you, like that. So, okay. So thus he left the palace before Duryodhana could act. Maya, the supreme energy of the Lord, acted here both internally and externally. Externally, in the way that Duryodhana was overtaken by the modes of nature and he insulted his uncle, and internally by helping a devotee to get closer to the Supreme Lord. No, every time a problem happens in the devotee's life, a devotee takes it as if as that now Krishna has put this problem in my life, he is going to take me closer to him. No, every problem is a stepping stone to become intense in Krishna consciousness, and a devotee knows that very well, and he always cherishes that particular thing, right? So miseries are in one sense, like miseries are much more helpful than happy times in advancing in Krishna consciousness. Text 17. Nirgata Kaurava Punya Labdo Gajahyata Tirtha Pada Padani Anva Kramat Punya Chikirshayo Vyam Adhishtito Yani Sahasramurtihi. By his piety, Vidura achieved the advantages of the pious Kauravas. After leaving Hastinapura, he took shelter of many places of pilgrimage, which are Lord's lotus feet. With a desire to gain a highest order of pious life, he traveled to holy places where thousands of transcendental forms of Lord are situated. Okay, purport. Vidura was undoubtedly a highly elevated and pious soul. Otherwise, he would not have taken his birth in the Kaurava family. So, Kuru Vamsha is considered to be a very, very amazing family lineage. And Maharaj Kuru also was very celebrated for his piety. In fact, when Parikshit Maharaj was about to be born in the first canto of Bhagavatam, the astrologers, they are coming and giving predictions of this child, and they are saying that no, this child will keep up the name of the Kuru Vamsha, the great lineage of Kuru Vamsha. So it is, there are so many nice qualities are mentioned there. I don't remember them now, but then it is a very important thing that we can see. It is very glorious dynasty. It is actually. So Vidura was undoubtedly a highly elevated and pious soul. Otherwise, he would have not taken his birth in Kaurava family. There can be some misfits like Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, but overall the family was like very, very pious. So to have high parentage, to possess wealth, to be highly learned, and to have great personal beauty, all due to pious acts. So but such pious possessions are not sufficient for obtaining the grace of the Lord and being engaged in his transcendental loving service. In fact, it is not that not sufficient. In fact, sometimes these are disqualifications. Kunti Maharani prays in her prayers to Lord Krishna, Janma Aishwarya Shuta Shribir Yedamana Madapuman. So these things gives mother. These things gives mother means like great pride, great pride in a person, and that pride actually takes the person off the devotional service. So in that way, it is not a very good qualification. If it is there, it's okay, it can be used in service of the Lord, but then we have to be careful. More advantageous position that we have, either the beauty or the opulence or high parentage or education and things like that, more we have to be careful, because it is source of pride, and pride can put us down. So it is very important to note this thing. That is why Kunti Maharani says that Tvam Akinchana Gochara. No, you are Akinchana Gochara. So you like a person, she is addressing to Krishna, you like a person who is not having any pride of any of these things, or who's not possessing anything else. He exclusively possesses you. If somebody asks like, what is your wealth? A pure devotee will say like, no, though he may be rich or poor, he may be very learned or unpaired, whatever may be his qualification, he will always say, my treasure is Krishna. No, that's all, and nothing else. So to such a person, Krishna becomes attracted. So if somebody thinks that, oh, something else is my possession, something else is my, what is that, is my credit, it goes to my credit. So then, no, Krishna doesn't look upon him so much, because he's not having exclusive attraction to Krishna, right? So, okay, here we see that but such pious positions are not sufficient for obtaining the grace of the Lord and being engaged in his transcendental service, transcendental loving service. Vidura considered himself less pious, and therefore he decided to travel to all great places of pilgrimage in the world in order to achieve greater piety and advance nearer to the Lord. At that time, Lord Krishna was personally present in the world, and Vidura could have at once approached him directly, but he did not do so because he was not sufficiently freed from sin. No, why he was not sufficiently freed from sin? He had the association of the no wrong people, right? So Krishna can be approached only with pure heart. So no, Krishna is all pure, and he can be approached only with pure heart. So it is very important to render service to the devotees, take association of devotees, hear the Krishna Katha from the devotees, and chant the names of the Lord, sincerely. And when we become Yesham hi antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvanda moha nirmukta bhajate mam vidavita. So when we become completely purified of all the sinful reactions and all the traces of sin in our personality, then we can approach Krishna. Then we can actually seek the association of Krishna. So here Vidura is like considering himself to be whether he is completely free of sin or not, that's a different thing. But he considered himself to be like that, and he wanted to get purified. And he knows that the most purifying agent is the association of devotees and to hear Krishna Katha from them. So that is why, he was going in search of, an opportunity like that rather than approaching Krishna directly. Right? So one cannot be 100% devoted to the Lord unless and until he is completely free from all effects of sin. Vidura was conscious that by the association of the diplomatic Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, he had lost his piety and was therefore not fit to associate at once with the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 7:28, this is confirmed in the following verse: Esham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridavataha. Persons who are sinful, asuras like Kamsa and Jarasandha, cannot think of Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth. Only those who are pure devotees, those who follow the regulative principles of religious life as prescribed in the scriptures, are able to engage themselves in Karma Yoga and then Jnana Yoga, and thereafter, by pure meditation, can understand pure consciousness. When God consciousness is developed, one can take advantage of the association of pure devotees. Shan Mahat Sevaya Vipraha Punya Tirtha Nishevanat. One is able to associate with the Lord even during the existence of this life. Places of pilgrimage are meant for eradicating the sins of the pilgrims, and they distribute all over the universe just to give facility to all concerned for attaining pure existence of God realization. One should not be satisfied, however, merely by visiting the places of pilgrimage and performing one's prescribed duties. He should be eager to meet the great souls who are already there, engaged in the service of the Lord. In each and every place of pilgrimage, the Lord is present in his various transcendental forms. So, we should approach the signs of going to a place of pilgrimage is to go there and to listen Krishna Katha and to hear about the Supreme Lord. So that is a very important thing. And to have darshan of the deities, who are worshipped very nicely, by the devotees, and to also hear of the narrations about the Supreme Lord. So, in fact, that is the way the ISKCON temples are organized. So it is not just we just come here and somebody like who's just because he is being paid, he is doing some worship, and the people just come and then they don't even offer pranams to the Lord. They'll just come, as if something they are seeing in the zoo, some animal they are seeing in the zoo. They'll just come, have a overlook just like that, and then walk off. So that is not a temple worship. That is not the way it is meant to be. So temple means we should understand it is the palace of the Lord, and it is the place, the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Master of the entire universe. He is there, and we go there with all humility. We offer our pranams to him. We offer our prayers, and we offer we would like to do some service to the Lord there. To go there, and he is the master. We have to go and do some service to him. So nowadays people come as if like, they're coming to some order supplier, some servant. They'll give some list of things. No, God, like if you are God, you fulfill all these things. No, otherwise, what is the point of you being God? No. So I am asking for these things, so you should give. So it's like, going to a hotel and then giving a menu card saying that, no, hey waiter, like bring all these things to me. No, that's how people actually approach God. So they should go and say that, like, I am an eternal servant of you. I have forgotten that I am an eternal servant of you, and then I am busy engaged in so many worldly things. Yes, I am going through so many problems, and root cause of all the problems is I don't know that, or I am not able to realize that I am your servant, and only engaging in your service will give all peace and prosperity and everything for me. So forgetting this, I am completely entangled in so many things, and I have so many desires and so many useless things in my head. So please purify me, my Lord. I am here, just to offer you some service, and whatever you like. No, I just want to do something for you. So that is a way in which we actually should approach the Lord in the temple. So these days, like, it's in Kali Yuga, everything is ulta. They don't offer any pranam. They just simply go and say, okay, like, no, this God is not giving me whatever I want. No, I'll go to some other God. That God may be giving this, and this God will give that. So it's all crazy ideas, actually going on. So why do they need God? They only need some, waiters in the hotel. No, they don't need God for them, right? Okay. So these forms are called Archa Murtis, or forms of the Lord, which can be easily appreciated by the common man. The Lord is transcendental to our mundane senses. He cannot be seen with our present eyes, nor can he be heard with our present ears. To the degree that we have entered into the service of the Lord, or to the proportion that our lives are freed from sins, we can perceive the Lord. But even though we are not free from sins, the Lord is kind enough to allow us the facility of seeing him in his Archa Murti in the temple, Archa Murtis in the temple. So if we are purified, if we are absorbed in our chanting, and if we are purified in our consciousness, we can have direct perception of the Lord, right? So bhakti paresha anubhava viraktir anyatra chaisataka ekakala prapadyamanasya yatashnatashus tushti tushti sudapayo nudasha. So this paresha anubhava, direct experience, is possible if we are freed from our sins and if we are absorbed in our chanting. But then if it is not, then we cannot directly have darshan of the Lord. So we can have darshan of the Lord in the form of Archa Murti. So Archa Murti. So we can actually have darshan like that. And we can access the Lord by the way of holy name. So that is the greatest mercy. Whenever we take darshan of the Lord in the form of his vigraha, and whenever we see or whenever we are able to chant the names of the Lord, we should actually think how merciful the Lord is. Lord is that person who is completely pure, and no impurity can even come closer to him. And my heart is full of impurities, but still I'm able to have darshan of him in the form of the deity. Still, he agrees to come upon my tongue when I chant the holy name of the Lord, right? So this is the greatest mercy of the Lord. So we should always appreciate this mercy. We should always give, we should always thank the Lord for being so easily available for all of us. Just for the sake of our purification, the Lord is making himself available so easily for us. Otherwise there is no need for him to be like this, right? So whenever we see the deity of the Lord, we should consider it's like greatest mercy of the Lord. Whenever we are able to chant the names of the Lord or remember the Lord, we should immediately consider that, no, this is greatest mercy upon us, right? And okay, the Lord is all powerful, and therefore he is able to accept our service by presentation of his Archa form. No one therefore should foolishly think the Archa in the temple is to be an idol. No, just a doll over there. So idol we should not consider to be like, no, we should not, the deity of the Lord should not be considered an idol. It should be considered as Archa Murti or Vigraha, Archa Vigraha, or the deity. It should be called like that. So the Lord should be called like that. He should not be called as an idol. So such an Archa Murti is not an idol, but the Lord himself. And to the proportion that one is free from sins, he is able to know the significance of the Archa Murti. The guidance of a pure devotee is therefore always required. Okay. In the land of Bharatavarsha, there are many hundreds and thousands of places of pilgrimage distributed all over the country. And by traditional practice, the common man visits such holy places during all seasons of the year. Some of the Archa representations of the Lord, situated in different places of pilgrimage, are mentioned here with the Lord is present at Mathura, the birthplace of Lord Krishna, as Adi Keshava. The Lord is present at Puri, Orissa, as Lord Jagannath, also as Purushottama. He is present at Allahabad, Prayag, as Bindu Madhava. At uh, Mandara Hill, he is present as Madhusudana. In the Anandaranya, no, Anandaranya, he is present as Vasudeva, Padmanabha, and Janardana. At Vishnu Kanchi, he is known as Vishnu, and at Mayapur, he is known as Hari. So there are millions and billions of such Archa forms of Lord distributed all over the universe. All these Archa Murtis are summarized in Chaitanya Charitamrita in the following words. Sarvatra Pakasha Thara Bhakta Shuka Dhite Jagatera Adharma Nashi Dharma Sthapite. The Lord has distributed himself all over the universe just to give pleasure to the devotees, to give the common man facility to eradicate his sins, and to establish religious principles in the world. Right? So this is the way, this is the reason why the Lord comes as Archa Murti. Okay, so there is a question. If a family member keeps thoughts and actions like Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, what should one do? Even if separated from family, will his karma impact the other members and future generations too? Um, Even if separated from family, will his karma impact the other members? So that means a devotee who is separated from the family, um, like because of such atrocities, no, he is walking off the family. Yeah, still, like the family will get the benefit, because he was part of that family, and a devotee always thinks, even if the family members are like Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana, he always looks for their welfare. He always prays for their welfare. A devotee will never say that, no, here is a person who's very bad and let him ruin, and things like that. So that is not the way he would think. So if he's able to see that he's going towards the path of ruination, he will try to help. And if he's not able to, if his help is not taken, so then no he just thinks that, okay, the supreme will of the Lord or the external nature is very, very powerful, and by the force, no, if something is happening, let it happen, and I will just simply offer prayers to him, right? So in that way, he can actually, um, he'll have that kind of an attitude. So it is a devotee of the Lord, because of his constant and strong meditation on the Supreme Lord, he becomes such a strong purifying agent. Anyone who has any connection with him, becomes purified. That's the power of the devotee of the Lord, because he is able to manifest the Supreme Lord within his heart. So he can purify the whole existence, whole environment. Everything will be purified around him. Right? So thank you all very much for joining for this session. And today evening we have a very, very wonderful session by Gopal Hari Prabhu. The Gopal Hari Prabhu is this. Just a minute.